this is the best thing. As in, if Tom Scott came back to making videos, that would be pretty high up on the list. No, but seriously, we are witnessing a massive turn in League of Legends content. And none of you are ready for what League is doing with their newest game mode. So, as I mentioned in the last video, recently we've had our trip to Riot headquarters where we were there to do two things. See what's happening with Aurora and play the new PvE game mode. And to make sure we can make cool videos about it, we got these cool notebooks, which are gonna look amazing on a green screen, and they were totally not responsible for any leaks whatsoever. So you know what, we are skipping the entire scripting part of this video, because I got my notes. If only I could read my handwriting. So, indeed, this year League's summer event is based around Anima Squad. Of course, the big summer event has to have its own skin line, so here you go. Now, what's cool about Anima Squad is that this universe has been set up by the other skins already. Which means those of you who already know the story of the Anima Squad skins have an advantage. So just for some super TLDR information. The Anima Squad universe is a futuristic universe that is attacked by the Primordians. These are a sort of alien enemies that have been teased in the past quite a few times. As part of the story here, we are dealing with the Bat Squad, with, of course, Vayne being the Bat. And all of this is happening in a city simply called the Final City, where there is a new original threat, Aatrox. Now, of course, because every big skin line needs a legendary skin, Aatrox is the one. And let me tell you, that legendary skin looks amazing. It even has an alien shark head that turns into a monstrosity. Now, I will likely not have the assets right now, so I can't show you the skin, but I can show you this image. This is from one of the after parties at Riot, where we built the Aatrox skin from Legos, and I am really good at Legos, so we won. But of course, since Aatrox is the enemy, it would be a good idea to also have a legendary skin for the good guys. And I am so honored to announce that this time around, Seraphine is the one. And you know just how happy those Seraphine mains are gonna be. Because let me tell you, the splash art alone is gorgeous. Again, I probably don't have the assets though, so just trust me. Of course, besides that, you also have a bunch of the normal skins. So for example, we have Leona, who represents a lion. For that skin, be ready for a really badass lion shield. Then we have Xayah, who is a bat. Ha! Psych! You see, Vayne is not the only bat around here. In fact, the twist is that the squad is actually around Xayah, who is the commander. And as a commander, she has a really cool commander hat. Just wait till that one gets revealed. But most people will absolutely focus on the new Yasuo skin. Here, Yasuo has a really cool suit and he's fighting with a cane. But of course, I know the community and I know that everyone will focus on the fact that Yasuo actually has wolf feet. Then there is Illaoi, who represents a bear, and let me tell you, she has an amazing big claw totem. And last but not least, there is also Yuumi, who is fully holographic. She was shown in one of the teasers, and let me tell you, it looks gorgeous. And since the hologram is just one full color, the chroma skins are gonna go wild. But of course, then we also have the bad guys. So as I mentioned, Aatrox is kinda the big bad guy here. But he's not the only one. There is also Bel'Veth, who looks like a monstrosity from Metroid. People will probably like that one. But also, we're getting Rek'Sai, which of course is the queen of a lot of these alien brutes. And yes, she also looks like something from Metroid. And lastly, there is also Briar, which is a crazy little freaky alien who actually joins the good guys. That's the little twist they are pulling off here, so it still makes sense that Briar is crazy, but she's fighting for the bats. Now, with all the skins set up so you know how much money you should be saving, let's talk about the game mode itself. As we now know, Swarm is a PvE Vampire Survivor inspired game mode that is fully replayable. Not to mention, it is also entirely free, which is crazy. This is like a whole separate game you would normally buy for like 15 bucks on Steam. So yes, it is focused on the co-op part while being PvE. And what's absolutely crazy is that apparently I am responsible for this game mode existing. Yes, I actually asked Riot about this and they confirmed I can mention this. So what happened is that this game mode was prototyped by a writer called Sarayan. It's an awesome guy who actually started working on custom skins, but then Riot snatched him to do some VFX on proper League of Legends skins. Now this person is crazy enough that one day he just decided to fiddle with the spaghetti that's behind League of Legends. And as the teams were thinking about what would be possible to do with game modes, apparently he watched one of my videos where I was complaining about PvE not being in League. I can probably tell you exactly which video that was. And he was inspired to just fiddle with the spaghetti long enough for him to make a prototype. And being a fan of Vampire Survivors himself, that's what he did. So yes guys, if we didn't complain a few years ago, this wouldn't exist. And here's the massive twist. While normally you would be controlling League of Legends with a mouse, your cursor doesn't do much here besides aiming some of your abilities. You actually move like you would in any other Survivor game with WASD. It sounds strange at first when I mention this, but let me tell you, this does wonders. It actually feels like you are playing a totally different game and not League of Legends, which has all the benefits you would imagine. Now, while this game mode is technically aiming for a bit more casual audience, it is still a bullet heaven. It is anything but casual. Your blood pressure might actually go higher than just playing ranked. But what's cool is that because there is this root base of casual audience, the game does actually start with a story, and slowly, over time, you get to recruit all the characters. So as far as we know, not every character will be playable from the very beginning. There should actually be a bit of a progression here. But the progression is not just all about unlocking new characters. There is a whole endgame that gives you more unlocks as you collect more money on all the maps. Speaking of which, you also unlock a bunch of different maps by completing missions. That's right, it's not just one replayable map. I'm pretty sure there is 4 different ones, all of which offer you slightly different gameplay. So, let's get into gameplay. Just like it is for other Survivor games, it is all about you running around and letting your weapons automatically hit all your enemies. If you have played Vampire Survivors specifically, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So, every champion has a different starting weapon. But more than that, all the starting weapons are unique to those specific characters. For example, Jinx has her minigun, Xayah is throwing the daggers, Seraphine is multicasting spells. And my favorite is Illaoi, who does not attack. She only spawns tentacles and the tentacles whip enemies around. Of course, as it is the norm in these games, besides the passive weapon that everyone has, as you level up you also get new weapons. And these are the ones that anyone can pick up. But just to give you a little bit of spice besides just running around, every character also has an active ultimate ability. And again, those ultimate abilities are different for every character. So, to give you some examples, Seraphine is based on multicasting with her spells. However, her attack doesn't actually automatically target enemies. You have to aim that with your cursor, with her active ability being a massive shield that also knocks back all enemies. Let me tell you, this is a great support for your team. And before I forget it, let me also mention, yes, you can play multiple of the same champions at once. Of course, since Illaoi is spawning tentacles around you, imagine what happens when you have 4 of them. Another example is Jinx, who of course has the classic Get Excited passive. So after she kills a certain number of enemies, she just goes wild. And her active ability just shoots a lot of rockets in an AoE. See, this is already a step above what most of the other Survivor games do. Because here, every champion actually feels like a totally different character. In other Survivor games, normally the starting character only gives you a different weapon. Here, that's not the case. If you love certain champions in League of Legends, know that they still feel unique in this game mode. Now, of course, as I mentioned, you get a new weapon every level. And just as it happens in these games, it can be either an active weapon, as in it's shooting enemies, or it can be a passive stat. This can be the size of the weapon, the duration of the weapon, the speed of the weapon. And as it is the norm in these games, of course, these weapons also evolve. So for example, if you get the weapon that deals damage around you at melee range, of course, if you get armor with that as a tank, that weapon will evolve with the armor. What's cool is that whenever you hover over the weapons, the game actually tells you what passive stat you need to evolve it. So don't worry, we will not be looking around for spreadsheets. Now, as you go haywire on this massive map, which by the way, these are open and entirely ginormous, you will be able to find different quests around. Now, these quests are usually really cool minigames. Sometimes you play football and you get a ball into the goal. And sometimes Yumi shoots a lot of balls at you and you just die. Yeah, these quests are not actually that easy, it is a bit of an RNG. But the rewards are always cool. Besides just getting more augments and stuff like that, sometimes you get unique rewards. For example, you get to drive a tank and just you run over the enemies and just it's glorious. So yes, these are high risk, high reward. And as I mentioned, since there are different maps, know that all of these different maps have different points of interest. For example, on one of these maps you get a base, and whenever you are around the base you actually heal up. And on another map there may be cannons that actually fire at the enemies, so it will be a good idea to kinda stay around them. And of course, if you do well, you will get to live long enough to see a boss. Now, I will try not to show much, just so I don't spoil anything, but I will tell you about one of the bosses. I mean, there are two bosses in this game. One of them is Rek'Sai, which is the intro boss, and hey, that one was cool. That's all I will say. And then there is also Aatrox, which is the final boss. Now, this one has multiple phases, and some of the phases will surprise you. You know what? Yeah, I will not spoil anything. Just go into these blind, because they are amazing. And rest assured that this game is actually a lot of fun, especially if you play with your friends. But that is kinda all the most important information I have. So now, let's talk about some of the other things that should be mentioned. First of all, there is a lot of meta progressions in this game mode, which means you're gonna be playing this game mode a lot if you like it. And the truth is, this is actually a game mode on the level of a new separate game. As I said, this is something that should be bought on Steam. And I have no doubt it is actually the best thing League of Legends has ever released. But this also brings up a really curious question. If you look at all of this chaos, which by the way, yes, the bitrate is gonna be amazing on streams. What happens if you play League on a potato computer? Surely there is gonna be some performance issues, right? Well, to be fair, Riot did do a lot of optimization on this game mode. That's why they are able to spawn so many enemies with so many mechanics. But at the same time, I can confirm right now, the potatoes will not be able to handle it entirely. We were playing this on really beefy computers, and at the very end, and really it was just at the very end where things were really out of control, some of the computers started slowing down a little bit. So just know that they are trying to optimize everything, but it might not work. And it makes sense because normally these Survivor games are 2D. This is 3D using League's spaghetti. And lastly, there is one more thing to mention. As I said, this is a co-op PvE game mode, but it can be played solo. The thing is, it is still all running on Riot's servers. Now, the funny thing about League is that League's servers are one of the more expensive things around League's development. Like, the servers are a third of League's costs at least. So what happens if you take 10 players from the Summoner's Rift and you allow each one of them to launch an individual game? Well, the costs go really high, which is why I don't understand how this can be free to play. You know, maybe that's why all those prices are going up. But hey, there you have it, a new game mode for League of Legends that will absolutely blow your socks off. And what's stellar about this is that the skins are amazing, the setup is amazing, the entire scene around it is gorgeous. But also, it is a whole new game genre inside League of Legends that is going to be targeting an audience that has never seen League before. That's the biggest point. All the people who love Survivor games but have never played League, well, guess what? You got them to launch League. And that is something Riot should be focusing on. So I'm really happy they do, because I know their community. Their community is focusing on totally different things, such as Yasuo's feet. They are gonna ruin it all, I know it.